Good. No, I don't have my mic on. All right, I think that's good. Good morning, everyone. I'm back in Canada, in Nova Scotia, my home province, and I'm on a family vacation with my family. They are asleep right now, so I thought it would be a good time to do a Q&A. You asked me questions on Facebook and Instagram, and today I'm going to spill the beans. Woo! All right, it's a little bit brighter out now. This is a beautiful time of year in Nova Scotia, but I have to say we've had some glorious days of sun here, and actually down the road it's experiencing a heat wave. But here it's very foggy out. Actually, we're in Queens County on the South Shore in Liverpool. It is a beautiful area, but it also can get foggy sometimes. And I think what's happening right now is the heat wave that we're having, where everyone else is getting, 35, 40 Celsius. The ocean is just bringing in all of this cool air to compensate it. So it's very nice to actually have, I'm wearing long sleeves and pants in the middle of a heat wave. But when I thought about shooting this video last night, I thought I would be showing you blue skies and beautiful weather like we've been having the past couple days. Now, as I said, a lot of people ask me questions on Facebook and Instagram. And you might be able to find me on Instagram. It's my name, Ayngelina, but you may not have found me yet on Facebook. And that is because my Facebook is actually called Bacon is Magic. Now, YouTube is not actually my full-time job. It's like an expensive hobby. It does not pay me enough to survive. I have a website and it's all about traditional food around the world. Surprise! So I have been traveling the world for 15 years from country to country, just sharing what I learn about traditional food. And that's why I so strongly believe that, when you support local, when you eat traditional food, that's where you can make the most difference in the economy. You're helping families. When you buy from women, that supports the whole family. And so I have lots of content there, lots of tips on what to eat, cultural tips, where to go that you have not seen on YouTube. And that's because I started YouTube actually in 2020 during the pandemic. So I was asked two really good questions. One is about my origin story, and one is, what is my end game? Like, where do I see myself going with this? I thought they were really good to kind of balance off each other. So the first one is from Leap Into the Wild, and they have been following me for so long. I was actually surprised they didn't know the story because I feel like I've talked about it a lot. But then I realized I only ever talk about it on Patreon. So I have a Patreon where I share a lot of the behind the scenes, the challenges, the good and the bad. I don't like to complain on YouTube, but this is kind of where I share like the struggles and the triumphs and the upcoming news. And I think I'm also going to open up a YouTube membership because I actually really like having it all in one place. So if you'd like to support me there, that is great. But also we always have these Q&As, so no pressure. So my story is that when I was 32, I was working in advertising in Toronto, and I loved that job. I was not a creative. I was actually a marketing strategist and built plans for a lot of really big companies that you would know. So I bought a one-way ticket to Mexico, and I started a website called Bacon is Magic to document my travels. I originally wanted to go Mexico down to Argentina, which I did do. And then I wanted to go over to Africa, go up Africa, and then end up Mongolia. I never made it to Africa or Mongolia, so those are definitely still on my wish list. But I really fell in love with Latin America, learned Spanish. It really changed my life to be alone, traveling solo. It makes you fearless. And so I started this website when blogging was just for a hobby. And then all of a sudden, Jordan, the country, the tourism board there reached out to me and said, we love what you're doing in Latin America, helping people understand that it's not terrifying. Would you like to come out to Jordan? I was like, oh my God, yes. That was an amazing experience. And so then over the next couple of years, different tourism boards around the world would invite me to travel there for free. And then I kind of turned it into a business. So that marketing background really helped. So you asked me about the challenges of it. When I was blogging, I really traveled much more slowly. So for example, I was based in Havana, Cuba for 2 years before the pandemic. So I had a little apartment that I would rent there, and then I would do work like go to Jamaica, go to the different places. So even though I wasn't living in Canada, I still had more of a base. But I just decided I've always wanted to do video, and I could see it was going there, and I thought, this is the time. I'm never going to have more free time than right now because no one was traveling. Well, some people were traveling during the pandemic. Anyway, so that is the story. I spent, I think, a year in Nova Scotia, just going from town to town because we were in a little bubble because we were at COVID-0 for a very long time and we weren't letting anybody in. And then after that, I went to Ecuador because one of my friends is a guide there and we made over 100 videos about Ecuador. He wasn't working and I just loved Ecuador so much and I thought it was a great time and idea to really promote it. And so I would say the biggest struggle is actually traveling and working. This is pre-Alan, and then also keeping on top of things. So right now, AI is killing my website. Like AI and Google changes, blogging is like slowly dying, but I am still writing. So I would say that's kind of the challenge is now learning how does AI help me instead of just stealing this job. And I have to say, I do love YouTube far more than blogging. So you know, it's kind of pushing me in a good direction. Anyway, so that's my job. Those are the challenges. This is how I met Alan. Well, I was working with a guide in Padang who had worked with Chopsticks Travels, Luke Martin, and also with Gordon Ramsay. And so he was great. We went on 5 days of just different tours and we actually became really good friends and he invited me to his wedding. So I thought, oh, I'll stick around Padang a little bit longer. But he said to me, but I'm not going to be able to help you, but I'll find someone who can. And so one morning he invited me for breakfast and Alan was there. And the funny thing is, Alan was very nervous. And so when he asked me where I was from and I said Canada, oh, he said, oh, you guys just legalized marijuana, right? And I thought, one of these guys. And it was so funny now because that's not who Alan is at all, but he said that's all he could think. Like that was the first thing that came to his mind. And he actually knows a lot more about Canada, but he just had made the worst impression. And where I was staying, he would show up every day to see if I needed help. And then one day he brought me this seaweed drink that I had never heard of. I actually don't like, but it was just so cool. I thought, you know what? Let's go out and make a video. And so that's how we met. So we were first friends. We used to talk and talk and talk for hours. And then it became a relationship. I would say Alan and I are very different people. So I am very like type A, need to get things done on a schedule. He is very go with the flow, more relaxed. Like his goal in life is to relax and mine is to get things done. And so we are very different, but we share the same values. Like family is very important to us, treating people with respect, learning languages, like the way we travel is very similar. And he also loves eating street food. And not just because it's cheaper. He said it's not about that, it's just the energy in the street. And so I feel like when he told me that, that is when I really fell in love with him. So Billy Bob Texas says, you have been traveling and living abroad for quite some time now. What's your end game? Where are you planning to settle in the future? Back to Canada? No. I think for the last decade, I have known that I would not retire in Canada. Of course, I'm far from retirement age, but I just don't see myself living in Canada, like settling down, getting married, buying a house, you know, having kids, buying a car, like all of those things that make Canadian life so wonderful, but also those things like just do not align with what I want my life to be. And so Latin America, when I was there, I thought I could easily live here. And there are a lot of places in Southeast Asia that I would love to live. Now, I should say, I do love Canada. I love coming home. I just spent 2 months in Nova Scotia visiting my family, and it was glorious in the summer. I also come home for a month over the holidays. So I still come back quite a bit, and I really enjoy actually seeing my country now as a tourist and making videos about it because I don't think I really appreciated it as a kid, but Canada actually is just a really wonderful country. But in Southeast Asia, you'll notice that the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time in Vietnam and a lot of time in Thailand. And that is because we've been going to different places to see, would this be a spot that we both like? As I said, Alan and I are two different people. I love the beach, he loves the mountains. So it is a little bit challenging, but also we just want a place where there's just really great food, it's clean, we feel at ease. And I think in knowing Alan now, I kind of measure a place by how do I feel instead of kind of checking logically off all of the boxes. But Thailand, Vietnam are like this for us. Thailand, very easy to live in. Lots of English, everything is very modern, and you can have anything delivered to your door within, 24 hours, usually within half an hour. So you don't really have to do much of anything. Vietnam, I just love. It reminds me of traveling 10 years ago. I think the people are nice, the food is healthy. I've been to Saigon so many times, and every time I'm there, I've said, I could really move there. But you'll notice when I was in Hua Hin, I made a video about the costs and kind of living there within 30 days. So moving forward, we will try to spend a month in each city and do side trips from there for YouTube videos. But also I might do more of those 30-day recaps just to, not only for myself, but also for other people who might be interested maybe in spending more time in one place. I know a lot of Canadians who are snowbirds, they still live in Canada, but they actually go to Da Nang in Vietnam, live there for the winter months. So that is what I'm going to be doing in the future. Let's get into the questions. First one is from SS Sailaway. Where was the first place you traveled to and why? I actually went to France when I was 16. I grew up in a single parent family. So my father died when I was 5 in a car accident. And I really do think that has shaped how I feel about life and understanding that, you only get one shot. So you got to make the decisions that are right for you. My mom saved all of her money, I think she had actually took out a loan, to send me on a trip to France when I was 16, and it was a summer trip. It was a traveling school. And I'm from small town Nova Scotia. I think when I grew up, there were probably like 5, maybe 8,000 in my hometown. And it's the kind of town where everybody knows me because I look just like my mom, and they also knew my grandmother. And so when I went to France, whoa, like so different. The culture there was so different as we traveled around. And one of the strongest memories I have it's actually a food. I remember having, tomatoes with oil and balsamic on it. I remember having hot chocolate for breakfast, and it blew me away and I wanted more. That trip changed me forever, and my mother said it was the best money she had ever spent. Usually people ask me, where's my favorite place to visit? And actually, it's always home. So I love discovering Nova Scotia and Canada because I don't think I appreciated it growing up. And I also just love experiencing it with my family. So if you didn't watch the Magdalene Islands video this year, I took a trip with my mom just because we are so different, and it's just something I feel like I can share with her, and we both really enjoy it. We both love to go to bakeries, and she's actually quite adventurous with food. She hasn't always been, but she's willing to try everything. She may not like it, but when we were in Magdalene Islands, she did try the seal many times. Let me get to the next question. So Lori said, where are you planning on going next after your visit with family here in Nova Scotia? And how is Alan doing while you're away? I have huge news. I came home actually for quite a while, and that's because I needed to plan. And next up, we are going to Mexico. I am so excited about this because one of the challenges with Alan is he's Indonesian, and it's very difficult for him to get visas in some places. I actually think Mexico has the most fair visa system, and a lot of other countries should do it. So basically, they do the police check and all of these things, but then they ask you to show how much money you have in your bank account. And they actually ask for your bank account for the last 3 or 4 months. And then so he got a visa, so excited. He did have to go for an interview, but he said it was great. He is very nervous to go to Mexico, like a lot of people are for the first time. But if you are an OG, an original viewer of this channel, you know that I spent like almost 2 years in Ecuador. And if you've been following me from my website, Bacon is Magic, you know I've spent like years, maybe a decade in Latin America. And so I am so excited to share Mexico with Alan. But how is he doing? Right now he's miserable, to be honest. Padang, where he's from, Sumatra, the island where all the coffee comes from, and lots of spice and curries. In Indonesia, it's like 45 degrees there. He said it's too hot. But he actually just said to me yesterday, he's like, I hate it. I can't wait to go to Mexico. Because in Mexico, we're going to central Mexico. So we're going to be spending most of the time in mountains. Our first city is Puebla. Now, if you are interested in Mexico at all, please let me know what you would like to know about. And if there are any towns or things that you're interested in. I'm trying to pick places that I've never been to before, so it's new for both of us. But also, I think Central Mexico is probably very underrated for a lot of travelers, but very popular for like Canadians and Americans to move to. This trip hopefully will be 1 month in a city. So she said to me, also Lori asked, will you ever do a travel series in the UK? And Keith also asked me, how much more do you enjoy the Far East more than Europe? You know there's a difference, LOL. The problem is Alan can't get a visa. So with the Schengen, I never pronounce that right, I think it's Schengen, visa system, it's actually quite difficult. So not like Mexico, and also very similar to Canada. So I think, Joanna said to me, any progress on Alan getting a visa to visit Nova Scotia with you? So actually Canada is harder than Europe. So in both cases, you need to show money, which is not an issue, employment, which is also not an issue, and then usually you have to show something else. So Alan has been denied a visitor visa for Canada twice. He met all of the requirements, but there's also a little bit of, like, it doesn't matter if you just meet the requirements. They make a decision. And unfortunately, with some advice from an immigration consultant, she said that how his applications were analyzed was actually not even by a person, it was just by a computer. And unfortunately in Canada, unlike the Schengen region, when you apply for a tourist visa in Canada or Australia, and I think actually it might also be the same in the US, it's not like you can get a 30-day or a 60-day or a 90-day visa. You basically apply for a 10-year visa where you can travel for up to 6 months each year. So if we got it, it would be great. But until then, we are going to travel places that he has not been yet. And there are so many countries in the Americas, South America, Central America, that he could visit that I think he would really like, especially if he spoke a bit of Spanish. As far as me, if you go to my website, Bacon is Magic, you know that I've spent quite a bit of time in Europe. I've been to Italy, France, I went to when I was young. I've since been back, Spain, Finland, England, Ireland, Greece. I do love Europe, but I also think that Europe is easier to travel. But first, it will be so interesting to see Alan outside of Asia and what he really thinks of tacos. Scott had a really interesting question for me. If you just graduated high school and you could pick your first trip for 2 weeks, where would you go and why? Hands down, Italy. Italy is just as amazing as you think it would be. I have, I think, almost every single time been on my own when I visited. I think maybe a couple times I've been with other people, but pretty much on my own, traveling solo. And it is a really great solo destination because you don't actually need to go in any museum at all. The cities are the museums. It's so incredible there. Anyway, but I do think Italy really opens your eyes to history, culture, architecture. Just, you can wander the streets. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And it will really, for me, that's why I've been there so many times. I would love to go back. Italy, really, when you go from town to town, it's so different. Each place has its own food, its own story, and very similar to Mexico. Now, White Point, if you have not been here, it usually is quite sunny. But I just want to show you some of we're staying in a cottage, but it also, we're walking towards the resort. They have these little oceanside cabins. Like, they're very cool looking and they look very plain, but they're new. And I think that's just because of the elements. But last night I was walking through here with my nephew and 2 people were coming out and they said, it's so beautiful here. And these little cabins, I don't know what they call them, like mini lodges. And it looks like they have a patio out front, that they are better than the pictures that they show. So the other question Scott asked me was, your top 10 list of must-see places to visit and of course eat. I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like, I do think for me, top 3 food, it's so hard. I'll tell you why. My natural instinct to say top 3 food would definitely be, or maybe top 5 food would be Italian, Vietnamese, Thai, Mexican, and probably Peruvian. That's where it starts to get hard. And then I start to think about like food in Laos and Cambodia that have fermented flavors that I think are very underrated. And then I think, of course, of, you know, other countries. So Scott, I'm sorry, I will work on this and develop a top 10 list. Look, there's this comfy little chair and you can look out. And last night I went with my nephew. I will show you the shots of what it looked like because we went for sunset and it was amazing. I sat on this rock. He sat down below. It was a beautiful sunset, but not so much today. I don't know if that's worth climbing on the rocks for. Next question. Oh, my cousin Brett. So she said, what is a place that you can't wait to go back to? And that is Mexico. I really want to go there. Puebla is a food city, and central Mexico I have not really spent a lot of time in, so I just think it's going to be a really fun adventure for us. And Mexico has these little towns called Pueblo Mágicos, or magic towns, and basically it's basically a tourism marketing thing. When I asked people where they would like to see me go, people, and I think I said Cuba, Mexico, Colombia, I think I gave those 3. No one wanted me to go to Mexico, and a lot of people said that they thought that they already knew it well. But I think people know Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, like all of the sun destinations well, but maybe not other parts of Mexico. So I took it as a challenge to show you my side of Mexico, or the side that I will discover, because I do think Mexico is more than just, you know, all-inclusives and, you know, senior frogs, if you know what I mean. Oh, I have a very long question, and we are not at our next destination yet. So I'm going to share some big news. All right, not the end of the video, but I did want to share big news with you, and that is in 2026, I'm going to be running a group tour to Vietnam. Yay! I'm announcing this before the details are ready, but if you're interested, right here, I'm going to put a QR code and I'll also put a link in the description below. It is basically just to say that you're interested in more details. You're not committing to taking the tour. Don't worry about it. No pressure. Just if you're interested. Over the years, I've had some tour companies reach out to me and say, you know, Angelina, we run this tour to this country. If you want, we could run the tour. You could put your name on it and charge more. You take the extra money and we'll handle the details. And I always thought that was strange because basically people are paying to hang out with me. Like, why should you have to pay more just because I'm there? I didn't contribute to the tour at all. So I wanted to do it differently, and I feel like I travel countries differently, and I want the tour to be different. And so I reached out to Nana in Saigon, who does run tours, and I've taken many with her, and she does not take you to where the famous Netflix show was or where Anthony Bourdain once ate, because those have become tourist traps. Basically, once they make it to TV or some famous YouTuber's channel, you're going to have crowds. So instead, she's going to take us to where locals eat. If you want to see local life, it is not in the big, crazy, famous place. It is actually in the side streets, the places that you would just pass by. And so she has the knowledge to know this is the best food and here's why, and it always has an interesting story. You know, she's a great guide in that she continues to travel her own country. And over the years, I've met so many guides that are just burnt out, and she is still very much in love with Vietnam. And so I love working with her, and I know the tour is going to be amazing. So over the next few months, we're going to work out the details, and then I will have information that I will share first on the email. The email list will be the list where it's the pre-sale, and then after that, we will announce it on YouTube and my social media. Anyway, if you're interested in Vietnam, again, that email list is no pressure. It's just to get more information. Okay, last spot looks a tad foggy, but that's okay. It does have a seat, and I'm going to need one because Angela sent me a really long question for an upcoming trip she would like to take, but I actually think I could have some good general advice for anyone who wants to go to Southeast Asia. Would you believe I talk so much? I ran out of my mic. I'm so glad I brought another one. But you can see behind me, there are blue skies. It is going to be nice today. Now, you told me that you are most interested in Southeast Asia. You want to see Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Singapore. I would also add in Cambodia. I do think you have to see Angkor Wat, one of the most beautiful places, like awe-inspiring in the world. Great history without too much history. If you don't take a tour, you could definitely just hire a tuk-tuk driver. They usually give you a brief overview of things, and also there are lots of signs. It's very impressive. I've been there twice, definitely worth it. Other places that are easy, shorter term to travel, I would say you could probably spend maybe 5 days in Laos, go into Vientiane, go into Luang Prabang. Again, the longer you travel, the more rest days you need. You're not gonna want to walk 10 hours a day every day. You will burn out. So I think Luang Prabang, Vientiane, really nice, lots of cafes, beautiful things to see. You could do some side trips if you want. And then Singapore is a city. You can go see all the hawker stalls. The food is very reasonable, high quality, but hotels are expensive. So I also recommend staying just like 10 minutes outside the center core of the city, and then taking what is their equivalent of Uber, which is called Grab, and going into the city. Now, the more difficult countries to do, and I say difficult because there's so much to see, are Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. Let's start with Indonesia. I would skip Bali. It's very crowded, so much traffic. It is so expensive. Like, expect US prices. And that's because a lot of foreign-owned businesses, and it's just become this, people at one time, it was really beautiful. And Alan actually worked there, but it's just become crowded. I would probably say it's like Tulum, Mexico. You can see other parts of Indonesia. Around Bali, you've got Lombok, Gili Islands, Nusa Penida, also really beautiful. So fly into Bali and then just take a ferry to those islands. Really fantastic. You'll have half the price and less crowds, fewer crowds. And then if it were me and you're only going once in your lifetime, I would also go to Flores, which I have not been to, but Komodo dragons, and then Raja Ampat. I don't know if you snorkel or scuba dive, but Alan said it is the best island. It is more expensive, but worth it. I'm saving my money to go there. So that's what I would say for Indonesia. Vietnam, I've posted so many videos. I think you should fly into Saigon, take a trip, a tour with Nana, and she could cover food and just general history and things in a couple days. Go up to the center of Vietnam, you could see Hoi An, then fly out of Da Nang and go up to Hanoi. I do think you probably need 10 days in Vietnam or you're gonna feel like you're rushing it. The thing I love about Vietnam is just going to Vietnamese coffee shops, hanging out, watching what goes by on the street, eating street food. Vietnam is a place that you really wanna spend time to relax. So I would just say, if you've got some time, do that. Then Thailand. I love Thailand. It's very easy to travel. You probably won't have any language barriers there, and go to the islands. You know, you're a maritimer like me. We like our beaches. You could go up north to Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, if you want to see the mountains. But I say fly into Bangkok, spend some time in the crazy city. Definitely get a tour, because Bangkok is crazy. You want to stay close to a subway line so it's easy to get around. Otherwise, you're going to be hours in traffic. But if you're on the subway, it's fine. And get some food tours and enjoy, because they're amazing. And then go down to the beaches where the food is different and just enjoy your time on the beach. So I would fly probably into Singapore. Do that first. It will be the most expensive. From Singapore, it's easy to get to Indonesia. From Bali, it's easy to get to Vietnam. From Vietnam, it's easy to get to Thailand. From Thailand, it's easy to get to Laos and Cambodia. But actually, maybe I would end in Thailand last, because you're gonna want to have some extra time on those beaches on the islands, so they're so beautiful. But I do think, I would say 6 weeks you could easily do for 15,000. Just for reference, I usually spend $20 a night on a hotel. If you spent 50, which you could get really great value hotels, that would only be $1,500 for a month. So tag on a couple of extra weeks for that, and say you spend 2,000, you're not even close to your 10,000. You could like live it up with 10,000. You're definitely not gonna hit 15. Anyway, this video was fun to do. I hope to do another one in the future. If you have any more questions, just leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video where I share. Guys, you're gonna think this is crazy. Just a bit of a preview. I am going to leave Halifax, fly 34 hours to Kuala Lumpur, pick up Alan, and then a day later fly 30 hours back to Mexico because he is a little bit nervous about flying outside of Asia. So it's going to be a crazy ride, and I think I'm going to shoot a video about it. So see you then.